Well, happy Wednesday. Glory and honor to our Father, Yah, and to Messiah, his grace, our righteousness, Yahweh Shai, Messiah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Glory and honor to their name. Welcome and greetings to the 12 tribes of Israel, scattered according to this book, the Bible, into the four corners of the earth, and who are now awakening to who they are and what's coming next. And to the 144,000 who are, as it were, the forerunners of the return of the Messiah in preparing the people to meet their God. Greetings. Greetings to the Gentiles who have received this truth of the gospel of perfect righteousness and have been grafted in to the Israelite nation. Greetings. Greetings to the chat, Brother Ricky Boyd, Brother Ruel, Brother Mark, glad to see you, Brother Manny, Brother Stephen Kelly, Brother Yafi, all of you, shalom, and greeting to all of you as we're continuing our study. And on Wednesday, we do current events. Now, today in the United States, it is the 15th day of March. Now, why is that important? Now, it's important that we look to nature for our signs. Let me share with you something in Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12. Let's look at Exodus chapter 12, where the Most High is instructing Moses about the departure of the children of Israel from Egypt. And so let's start at Exodus chapter 12. And I'm going to begin at verse 1, Exodus chapter 12, beginning at verse 1. And I'm going to go from verse 1 down to verse 7. Okay, that's Exodus chapter 12, from verse 1 to verse 7. Very good, Mark. Praise the Most High. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls, every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. Ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole congregation, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses wherein they shall eat it. So this was the beginning of the year for Israel. It's the spring. The spring is the beginning of the year for Israel. Okay? I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because in the spring, all of the new greenery comes out for the trees. The buds come out on the trees. The new leaves come out that had died in the autumn and in the winter, right? So you have the beginning of the year, the 14th day of the first month. Now, how are the Israelites counting months? They do it by the moon phases, okay? They do it by the phases of the moon. Today is what we would call, in the world, they call it the equinox. What does that mean today? The equinox today, which is the 15th and the 16th day of March, what we call March. The sun set at 7:34, and the sun rises tomorrow at 7:34. Okay? Now, the calendar says 3/21, Ricky Boy, but you can't go by the calendar because the calendar just sets a date that's the same every year. It's not the same every year. Okay? So let's look at, in fact, what I would say is look at your sunset and sunrise for your local area. Usually in the weather forecast, they'll tell you your sunset and your sunrise. You following me? Y'all follow me? So they'll tell you sunset today's at such and such, and sunrise today's at such and such, right? So if you look at today, is Orlando, Florida, is probably the same all on the East Coast. The sunset today is at 7:34, and the sunrise tomorrow is at 7:34. Now, what does that mean? That means that today, okay, that means that today there's 12 hours of dark. You got me? It's 12 hours of dark. Exactly 12 hours. Now, the Bible is on a lunar calendar. What do I mean by that? The day begins at sunset. Let's look at Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. And let's begin at verse 1. Genesis chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 5 because all through chapter 1, it will repeat what we're about to read here. Genesis chapter 1, from verse 1 to verse 5. In the beginning, Yah created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the waters. And Yah said, let there be light. And there was light. And Yah saw the light, that it was good. And Yah divided the light from the darkness. And Yah called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And here's the important point. And the evening and the morning were the first day. So what came first? Tell me, according to what we just read, what came first, darkness or light? What came first, darkness or light? What came first to make a day, darkness or light? What do y'all say? And it'll say that from each, darkness came first, and it'll say that through all 7 days. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And then if you skip down to go to, let's see, if you go down to verse 8, and Yah called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Okay. And then in verse 13, and the evening and the morning were the third day, so on and so forth. So evening comes first. So for the Most High, the sunset begins the day. Okay, sunset begins the day. So when you have equal amounts of sunset, of day and night, that's what is termed equinox. Does that make sense? Because it's equal. You have same hours of day, same hours of night. Does that make sense? Everybody, I want to make sure I don't lose you. So that makes sense. So right now, today, where I am in Orlando, sunset is at 7:34. Sunrise tomorrow morning is at 7:34. Okay, that's exactly 12 hours. So you can have 12 hours of night and 12 hours of day. Okay, evening and morning. Now, tonight is that right here. This is it. So after tonight, it's going to be unequal. It's going to slowly become more day and less night. The days are going to become longer, and that's not even talking about them springing the clocks ahead. If they didn't spring the clocks ahead, the days would still become longer. You would end up getting more and more sunlight and less darkness, and that will continue until you get to June. When you get to June, it starts going the other way, and then the days start to shrink, and then 6 months from now, in September, you're going to see another day where there's exactly 12 and 12. And that's called the autumn equinox or the fall equinox. So this is the spring equinox, and then you have the fall equinox. Okay, Ricky Boy, now on the same page. Okay, so Today is the first day of spring, really, as far as the Bible is telling us, because you can see it's equal. And now the days start to get longer, which tells you you're in spring and then going into summer. Okay? Okay. Now, the first new moon after today is the first month of the year. Does that make sense? Are y'all following me again? I want to make sure I need. So the first new moon after today, the next new moon you see is the first of the year. Everybody got me so far? So far, so good? So this is the end where we're at right now, is the end of the 12th month. So the first new moon is March 23rd. Now, if you look at the calendar, they're going to tell you it's March 22nd. And the reason they're going to tell you that is because the world considers a new moon when you can't see the moon anymore. But that's not biblical. That's not, The new moon is when you can actually see a new moon. What they call it in the world is the waxing crescent. That's what you want to look for. When you see on the calendar, it says waxing crescent, that's the beginning of the month right there. So the next time we'll see, according to this phase calendar I'm looking at, the next time there's a waxing crescent is March 23rd. Okay. Now, this changes every year. That's why when they say on the calendar, equinox is the 20th or the 21st, they're just putting it on the calendar. It changes because the moon changes, doesn't stay the same every year. It always comes back to this time of year, but it doesn't stay the same. It could be like today, the 15th, 16th. It could be the 20th, 22nd. But generally, it's around this time every year, which is another reason why the Gregorian calendar has the correct number of days, because every year, spring is in March. Every year. If it was off, so it's spring. It would be off. Okay. But it's not. So every year, spring is in March. So now, or what they call March. So now, today is the equinox. On the 23rd, which is a week from today, or a week from tomorrow, it's New Year. It's Hebrew New Year. Okay. All right. So now, 23rd of March is Hebrew New Year. If you take 2 weeks from that, that'd be the first of the year. If you do 2 weeks, you'll be at the 15th of the month. Does that make sense? So you're the first of the year and the first of the month. The first month of this year is March 23rd. So now you take 2 weeks and you'll be at the 15th day of the first month. Everybody understand that? So you have 14 days to that. You'll be at the 15th day of the first month. What happens on the 15th day? Well, let me ask you what happened. What did we just read in Exodus? What happens on the 14th day of the first month? It says here, and ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of Israel shall kill it in the evening. So that's what we call the 14th day of the first month, the Passover. Okay. So now they're going to have a Passover on a calendar, but we're going by the moon phases as we're supposed to. Okay. We're going to go by the moon phases. So the first day of the year for us is March 23rd. The 14th day of the first month is what we call April 5th. April 6th is the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay, so we're trying to go in order. Now, we looked at Exodus chapter 12. Let's continue. Let's look at, let's see here. There's another one in Exodus too, but I was thinking about going to Leviticus for it's clearer there. But let's look at, let me see what we got. I know we got another one in Exodus here. I'm going to go to Leviticus because I think it's less confusing. I'm going to go to Leviticus. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus chapter 23. Okay. Leviticus 23, Let's start at verse 5. Leviticus 23. Let's read from verse 5 and verse 6. Leviticus 23, 5 and 6. Okay. In the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread. So the Passover, they killed the animal on the 14th day. Now, when did they kill it on the 14th day? Very important that we understand that, because at sunset, it's the 15th day. So they had to kill the animal on the 14th day before sunset. Because if they waited till sunset, it would be the 15th day. You're following me so far? So they said, it says here, on the 14th day of the first month at even. So it's before sunset, but it's called even. If you would look up the word even, it would be afternoon. It would be 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Okay. What hour is that? That's what the Bible calls the 9th hour of the day. So they would kill the Passover on the 9th hour of the 14th day of the month. Everybody with me so far? So if we were doing it this year, we would kill the Passover at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on April 5th. Everybody got me? Okay, so we would kill the Passover at 3 o'clock. And it's called the 9th hour of the day. Now, let's take a look. We're going to keep your finger in Leviticus because we're going to come back. But let's take a look at Matthew chapter 27. Matthew chapter 27. Matthew chapter 27. And I'm going to read from verse 45 and down to verse 50. So that's Matthew chapter 27 from verse 45 to verse 50. Matthew chapter 27, verses 45 to 50. We come right back to Leviticus. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Yahushua cried with a loud voice, Ali, Ali, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my most high, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there when they heard that said, this man called for Elijah. And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. The rest said, let be. Let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. Yahushua, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. So he died at the 9th hour. You think it's coincidence that that's the exact hour that the Passover lamb is to be killed? See, when it got to the 12th hour, it was a new day. But he died at the 9th hour, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay? He died at the 9th hour. And so now, if it was now, Messiah would be put to death on April 5th at 3 o'clock. And then on April 5th at 6 o'clock, even though it wouldn't be sunset officially because of the crazy world we live in, it would start a new day. And you'd be now in the feast of unleavened bread. Okay? Be now in the feast of unleavened bread. Okay. So I think y'all got that so far. Did I lose any of you guys yet? So right now we're at the sign of the end of the year. The sign is the equinox. When you get to the equinox, you're now at the end of the winter, and the days are going to get longer, and you're in the spring. And the first month is that first waxing crescent that you see in the sky. So when you look in the sky, and you're going to see it next Wednesday. Okay, you're going to see it next Wednesday. You're going to look in the sky if it's a clear night where you live, and you're going to look for the moon, and you're going to see a waxing crescent next Wednesday. Okay, now, so far, can you guys type a 1 if you're with me so far? I know I've said a lot in a short period of time, and so I don't want to, and that's why we record this stuff too, so you can go back and look at it again. So the new year is March 23rd. Okay, great. Now, let me here's a test question. Here's a test question. So the new year is March 23rd. The Passover is March 14th. April 4th. April 5th. I'm confusing myself. April 5th and April 6th is the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. April 5th and 6th. April 5th and April 6th. Okay. What is the moon phase going to be? You could tell me. You should be able to know. What is the moon phase going to be on April 5th, on April 6th, when the Feast of Unleavened Bread begins? What is the moon phase going to be? What's it going to look like? The new moon, which I said is next week, the 23rd, is going to be what they call a waxing crescent. What's it going to be? That's right. Y'all free. That's right. The 15th, you can always know the 15th of the month, because the 15th of the month is the middle of the month. It's the new moon. It's the full moon. All right, everybody got me? So the full moon represents the 15th day of the month. It's the middle of the month. Right before that, the day before, in our case, the 14th day of the month, which is April 5th, is the Passover. Okay? All right? So you're going to go from Passover. The next day is going to be a full moon, and that's going to be the Feast of Unleavened Bread for 7 days. Okay. All right, I'm glad y'all are with me. Praise the Most High. Okay, so April the 6th, okay, April the 6th is on a Thursday. April the 6th is on a Thursday, okay? April the 6th is a Thursday. In fact, it's the first Thursday in April. So you want to know, when the Feast of Unleavened Bread starts? It's the first Thursday of this April. Now, here's another question. What would if this was the year that Messiah was crucified, what would take place on Sunday? And what does the Bible call it? I know, let me tell you what it's, we know it's the resurrection. It'd be Saturday night, but there's another word for it. What would take place on the 9th, which is Sunday of April? What would take place on April the 9th? What would take place? No. The atonement was his death, and then he resurrected on Saturday night. That's right. Joh He. That's right. What's it called, Joh He? That's exactly right. Joh He said the first fruits. That's exactly right. That's right. What is the first fruits? That's exactly right. They call it, in fact, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Let's look in the word. Let's look in the word. Let's look in the word. We'll get it from the Bible. We'll get it from the Bible. Okay. Let's stay with Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus 23. I'm going to start at we stopped at verse 6. So I'm going to start at verse 7, and I'm going to go from verse 7 down to verse 13. Right. Well, actually, I'm going to go from 7 to 12, and then I'm going to ask you, because it doesn't name it here, but the name is in it. Here's a riddle. The name is in it, but they don't name it. They name it in Deuteronomy. So here, I'm going to read Leviticus chapter 23 from verse 7 to 12. Okay, that's right. Manny already got it. That's right. It's called the wave offering. And it is what Joh He said is the first fruits. Okay, so let's read it. Leviticus chapter 23 from verse 7 to verse 12. In the first day ye shall have an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. So that's a Shabbat, not the seventh day Shabbat, but that's the Shabbat for the Passover, which is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. And the seventh day is a holy convocation. You shall do no work therein, no servile work. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits. See what Joh He said? Of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest, and he shall wave. That's what Brother Manny said. He shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. See? And ye shall offer that day when ye wave the sheaf and a lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering. Now you remember what Messiah said. In fact, let's take a look at it. In Gospel of John, Gospel of John, chapter 'Oh, it's not in John. Man, it must be in another gospel, because in John he didn't say it, but he said when he first resurrected, he said to Miriam, he said, "Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father." Y'all remember that? I'm trying to find it. He said, "Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father." Why did he say that? Because he himself represented the way. Mark 20:27. Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, all right, thank you. Let me read that. Yeah. No, that's, oh, wait, Mark. You mean Mark? Oh, no, it's not in John 20:27. No, he let Thomas touch him in John 20:27. No, it was another one. Let me see. It might have been Matthew. No, it wouldn't Matthew either. It wouldn't be that. It's either Mark or Luke. Let me just check here. Yeah, no, it's not John 20:27. Hold on. No, it must be Mark. It must be Mark. Let me look at Mark. Is it John 20:17? I don't think it's that either. Hang on, let me see. John 20:17. No, in John 20:17. Oh, yes, it does. I was looking right at it the whole time. Thank you, brother superstar. Yahweh said unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, but I go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. God, that's right. John 20:17. That's what it is. Okay. Because why? He represents the first fruits of the resurrected. There were others that were resurrected with him that were the first fruits of his sacrifice, but he himself is that lamb that was sacrificed that Moses talked about in Leviticus. Okay, now that would be, if it was this year, that would be April the 9th. Okay, April the 9th, they'd wave that before the Most High. Now we know that the Bible tells us in Matthew 27 that there were saints raised up with the Messiah. You remember that? Matthew chapter 27. So there were saints raised up, and as brother Manny said, they also, and as brother Yafi said, they also represent the first fruits of the resurrection. So in Matthew chapter 27, I'm going to read from verse 51 down to verse 53. Matthew chapter 27 from 51 to 53. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. See? So, right. So you have the Messiah representing the Passover lamb, and then you had the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and then you had the wave offering, And then there's saints that arose with Messiah or after him, and they went back to the third heaven with him. And I believe you see them standing around or sitting around the Father's throne with white robes on as the 24 elders. But that's me. But that's what I see from it. But definitely he has a first fruits coming with him. It doesn't say who they are, but it's obviously they're Israelites that have been resurrected, and they're around his throne. See? So that's the Passover. That's where we're at right now. This is the new year. And you know what, brethren? What's exciting? If we're correct, this is 2023. Ain't but 9 more years. Ain't but 9 more years we have in this planet, in this earth, the way it is right now. In the 10th year, we'll be in the New Jerusalem with this feast. You hear me? You hear what I'm saying? In the 10th year, we'll be in the New Jerusalem. It's that close. Okay. So all of this, what we just saw, this happened AD 31. AD 31. Okay. Okay. Messiah started his ministry AD 27. 3.5 years later, it was AD 31 in the spring, the first month. He was sacrificed AD 31 on the 14th day of the first month. By my calculations, it was on a Wednesday. See, it was on a Wednesday that he was sacrificed. And then that Sunday, the wave offering. He came up out the grave Saturday night, because Saturday night in the Hebrew would be what? It would be Sunday, even to even. So Saturday night he was resurrected, probably around 3 in the morning. Okay, again, according to my calculation, 3.5 days exactly. So then the wave offering, he was the wave offering. He showed himself to his Father. That's why he said, I'll send to my Father. He had to be accepted. His sacrifice for sin had to be accepted by the Father. That was what the wave offering was all about. Now we know at Pentecost, 50 days later, there was an outpouring of the Spirit, which Joel describes as the early rain. Then we know, let's go back to Leviticus chapter 23 again. Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus 23, I'm going to begin at verse 23 and go from verse 23 and read down from verse 23 down to verse 25. Okay, Leviticus 23 from verse 23 to verse 25. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, and holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. So, in the 7th month, now, this is the first month we're coming up on right here. 6 months later, you're in the 7th month. What we will call September. Okay, so if the first day of the month is March 23rd this year, probably September between the 22nd and 23rd is 6 months from now. Does that make sense? Okay, so 6 months, which is the 7th month of the Hebrew year. The first day of the 7th month, there's a blowing of trumpets. It's not a feast. Some people mistakenly call it a feast. It's not a feast. It's a blowing of trumpets on the first day of the 7th month. And what is the purpose of the trumpets? It's a warning. Trumpets are always a warning, brethren, an introduction, of what? Of the 10th day of the 7th month. Leviticus chapter 23, beginning at verse 26. Leviticus chapter 23, beginning at verse 26, going from verse 26 down to verse 32. Leviticus chapter 23 from verse 26 down to verse 32. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. And ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yahweh your Most High. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that doth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. Ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even. That's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the 9th day. From even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. So from sunset to sunset, that's how we keep the Sabbath, from sunset to sunset. So now, that's the Day of Atonement. So when Messiah was offered as a sacrifice in AD 31, and then 50 days later, Pentecost in AD 31, you would think that, okay, 7th month of AD 31 would be the Day of Atonement. But no, it wasn't. Why? Two reasons. After Messiah was sacrificed, what did he do when he resurrected and went to heaven? When he went to the third heaven, what did he do there? I mean, don't tell me he sat at the right hand of the Father. We already know that. But what was he doing? He's actually been doing something. What was he doing? He was performing a certain work, which he's still doing. What was he doing? Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9. That's right. Hebrews chapter 9. Okay. Hebrews chapter 9. I'm going to begin at verse 1. And I'm going to go from verse 1 down to verse 12. Okay? Hebrews chapter 9 from verse 1 to verse 12. Okay? Hebrews 9, 1 through 12. Now, then verily the first covenant had ordinances of divine service in a worldly sanctuary. For there was a tabernacle made, the first wherein was the candlestick and the table and the showbread, which is called the sanctuary. And after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant. And over it the cherubims of glory shadowing the mercy seat, of which we cannot now speak particularly. Now, when these things were thus ordained, the priests went always into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the service of Yah. But into the second went the high priest alone, once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and for the errors of the people. The Holy Ghost is signifying that the way unto the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, well as yet the first tabernacle was yet standing, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect as pertaining to the conscience, which stood only in meats and drinks and divers washings and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of Reformation. But Messiah, being come a high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither with the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood, he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. So when he resurrected, he became the high priest. And he went to intercede on our behalf to the Father. So what does that mean? That means there is no more need or recognizing the Levitical high priest. So Caius and Annas, they weren't recognized. Not that they were recognized before, but they definitely weren't recognized now, because now you have Judah as the high priest. So now Judah is the high priest, and he's not the high priest in the earthly sanctuary. He's the high priest in the sanctuary made without hands. Let's take a look. Same Hebrews chapter 9. Same Hebrews chapter 9. I'm going to start at verse 24. Hebrews chapter 9, verse 24 down to verse 28. Hebrews chapter 9 from verse 24 to verse 28. For Messiah is not entered into holy places made with hands, which are the figures of the true, but into heaven itself. That would be the third heaven. Now to appear in the presence of Yah for us. Nor yet that he should offer himself often, as the high priest entered into the holy place every year with the blood of others. For then must he have often have suffered since the foundation of the world. But now in the end of the world, he hath appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment, so Messiah was once offered to bear the sins of many. And unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation. So now I tell you there's a second reason why it didn't happen that year. Well, number one is now Messiah is the high priest, not Caiaphas, not Annas, no earthly Levitical priest. Messiah, and that's why Paul went into in chapter 7 explaining why it was changed. The law was changed when Messiah was ascended, because Messiah is now the high priest. Okay, so now on earth there would be no service in terms of a Day of Atonement on the earth. The Day of Atonement would go now to the sanctuary not made with hands. Okay, so now what? Well, when is this Day of Atonement going to take place? And that's where Daniel comes in. And let's go to Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8. And we're going to have to study Daniel, because this is very important, and I study Daniel most every year, but it's very important to what's going on right now for us. Very important that we understand this, because this is why, and some of y'all got it already. Look, the purpose of the high priest is to take sin off of Israel. Just like that. The purpose of the high priest is to take sin off of Israel. When he said afflict your soul, that means confess your sin. That means repentance. Afflict your soul. Repentance. Remember, we read that in Leviticus 23. That's repentance. That's the confession of breaking the covenant. The high priest on the earth would offer an animal on your behalf. Messiah doesn't offer an animal. He offers himself. And he comes to the Father as the Son of Man, saying, I represent those people. My perfect righteousness is on their behalf. I would sacrifice for their sin. Okay? The Bible calls this process the Day of Atonement, and it also calls it the cleansing of the sanctuary. Let me say that again, because that's also in Leviticus chapter 16, which we're not going to go to right now, but it calls it the Day of Atonement, and it also calls it the cleansing of the sanctuary. What does that mean? That means the sanctuary where we confess our sins. All of the confessed sin in the spirit is taken out of the sanctuary and placed on the head of the scapegoat. Very easy to know who the scapegoat is. That's who's to blame. Scapegoat, right? You ever know that word, right? Somebody's a scapegoat means it's their fault, right? They become the scapegoat. And we know who that is. So the sanctuary is cleansed. Sin is taken from us to the sanctuary, and the sanctuary is cleansed, and the sins is placed on the head of the scapegoat, who is Asatan. Okay. Daniel chapter 8. In Daniel chapter 8, it tells us why it did not happen, all of this I'm talking about, in AD 31. Why didn't it happen then? Okay. In Daniel chapter 8, it talks about the rise of the Pope and of the Roman Catholic Church. When we study Daniel, we'll go into that. But for now, I'm just going to show you the little horn that is the Roman Catholic Church. And we're going to read from there, and it's going to explain to us why it didn't happen in AD 31. Okay, so let's take a look in Daniel chapter 8. I'm going to read beginning at verse 9, from Daniel chapter 8, beginning at verse 9, and go down to verse 14. Daniel chapter 8, from verse 9 to verse 14. And out of one of them came forth a little horn. Now, you don't have to believe me. I'm just telling you, we're going to study it later. But the little horn is the Pope of Rome. Okay, that's the Pope of Rome. That's the Vatican. That's the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him, the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground. And it practiced and prospered. That's the Roman Catholic Church. And I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host, that is the Israelites, to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. In Bible prophecy, a day is equal to a year. That's Numbers 14:34 and Ezekiel 4:6. A day is equal to a year. So 2,300 years we're going to go by before the sanctuary in the third heaven can be cleansed. Now, part of that, of course, is because we would be going into slavery. Does that make sense? We would be going into slavery. Okay? So that's part of the reason why it wasn't going to be cleansed for a long time. Indeed, not in AD 31. Okay? Y'all understand it? So we would be going into slavery. And in fact, a lot of our people, even at AD 31, were already scattered into other nations. Remember Simon, who they compelled to carry the tree for Messiah? Where did he come from? He came from Cyrene. Why was he in Cyrene and coming to Israel? Cyrene is Africa. What was he coming from there for? Because he was a Hebrew that had already run and settled in Cyrene. See, there were many times when we were scattered. Babylon scattered us. Medes and the Persians scattered us. The Greeks scattered us. And then finally, the Romans scattered us. So many Hebrews were scattered to the four corners of the earth. already. And before that, the northern tribes had already been scattered by Assyrians. Okay, so that already had happened. And then we still had, up until Romans, at the Roman time of the Messiah's death, we still had another few years before Judah was going to be scattered into Africa, right? So now it said 2,300 years. Now, it wasn't 2,300 years from then, but we're going to study that when we go to Daniel. But the 2,300 year period would end in 1843. Okay. And then there would be a cleansing of the sanctuary, which would be one day. It's called Day of Atonement, right? Day of Atonement. But it didn't happen in a day, because in Bible prophecy, a day is a year. So 1844 should have been the end of the Day of Atonement. But there was a problem. The Israelites were not prepared. The 144,000 were not ready in 1844. Why? Well, we know why. When you look at Revelation and you look at the sixth seal and you look at Revelation chapter 7, where were we in 1844? Where were the bloodline Israelites in 1844? Where were we, brethren? Talk to me. Where were we in 1844? How come there wasn't 144,000 of us prepared? That's right. We were scattered and in chains. So we weren't ready. So there was a delay, which is why you saw the angel with the seal in his hand tell the four angels in Revelation chapter 7, hold the winds. Hold the winds until our servants are sealed. There you go. And that's the only thing Father Yah is working on right now. Everybody wants to know, what's God doing? What was he doing when everybody's dying in the Ukraine? What is he doing with all of these floods and all of these fires and all of these earthquakes? This is what he's doing. He's getting 144,000 sealed. That's what he's doing right now. That's what he's doing. And he's almost done. Look, brethren, in the description box, I have put a scripture. I put the scripture, I believe it was John chapter 16. I put that scripture in there because it says, I have yet many things to say unto you, but you cannot bear them now. Howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. Well, wait a minute, brethren. What does that mean? Messiah is now letting us know everything that's getting ready to happen. How do you think I can explain that thing to you just now? It's because it's time. It's because now the Spirit of truth has come and he's guiding us in truth. So now we're at the point right now where the high priest is about to finish his work. And now we know the Day of Atonement happens on the same day as the Jubilee. Same day. The 10th day of the 7th month. So the next Jubilee is September of 2027. 10 years before that would have been the blowing of trumpets. There were signs in the heavens, and most of you will remember in August and September of 2017 to let us know, yes, it's the blowing of the trumpets. 10 years later is the Day of Atonement, which is the same day as the Jubilee, 2027. 5 years after that, or 5 days later, comes the Feast of Tabernacles, or otherwise known as the Feast of Ingathering, when all the harvest is gathered in from the field. That would be 2032. Okay, that would be 2032. So here we are, brethren. Right now, we're in the new year. And I'm telling you something. 10 years from now, we're going to be celebrating this in the New Jerusalem. I know it sounds long for some people. 10 years, it's got to be that long? Don't worry. It's going to go by really fast. Really fast. Really fast. 10 years from now, we'll be celebrating It was in the sky. It was there was an eclipse, brother Black Above Realty. There was an eclipse, and I think it was called a red eclipse. Some of y'all remember, right? Some of y'all remember. Some of y'all help me out here. It was in September and August of 2017. There was a sign in the heavens. It was a special eclipse. Y'all remember that? Tell Black Above Realty what happened. It was. Let me just look it up here. Let me see. Eclipse. I'll tell you right now. I'm just going to do a Google real quick. Yeah, August 21st, 2017, what was it called? Solar eclipse on August 27, 2017. And in 2017, there were 4 eclipses and 2 solar eclipses and 2 lunar eclipses in 2017. Yep, there were 2 solar. Let me just put lunar eclipse 2017. Yeah, there were 2 lunar eclipses in 2017. I'm just trying to get the exact dates for you here. There was August was a lunar eclipse, a partial one, and then August was a solar eclipse. So there was a 21st of August was a solar eclipse in 2017. Yeah. Yeah. It was a blood moon. That's right. It was a blood. They called it a blood moon. That's what it was. Yasha, yeah. They called it a blood moon that time. Yeah. 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 Called it a blood moon. That was 2017. 10 years later, 2027 is a jubilee. Okay. That's right. That's right. That's right. 2027 is a jubilee. So now we know. See, brethren, it's coming. It's coming very quickly. And so now, see, I'm looking for, when we look at like the new year, right now, the new year for us is next week, the 23rd, right? That's our new year. Praise the Most High. 1 year closer. 1 year closer to the end. 1 year closer to the end. Okay, 1 year closer. And then 50 days later, which for us, it would be, so now you have the 23rd is the first day of the month. The 15th day of the month is April 6th. So then from April 9th, you count 7 Sabbaths. 1, 15th, and 20, 29. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 14th. I got to look at it closer. It's either the 7th or the 14th of June. I got to look at it closer. I'm just messing up now. I'm rushing. So it's either the 7th or the 14th of June would be Pentecost. Okay, either the 7th or the 14th of June. I got to look at it again. But either the 7th or the 14th of June. So the first day of the month for us is March 23rd. The 6th is the 15th day of the month. Okay. Then you count from that day, you count 7 Sabbaths. And you'll get to about the 14th or the 7th of June. I want to say 49 days, the 50th day being a Sunday. That will be the Pentecost. And then we know the 7th month now, 6 months from now, it's going to be in September. So all you got to do is look for your new moon in September. In fact, let's take a look. The new moon in September, very easy. September, let's see, what are they talking about? September, the new moon is in September. The first new moon in September is on the 15th of September is the new moon. The 15th of September is the new moon. Therefore, The 29th of September is the 15th day of the 7th month. There you go. There you go. So see, it's all out here, man. It's all out here in the heavens. All you got to do is look at the moon phases and you can know where we are. And look, the Most High is showing us, brethren. People that even watch the moon phases don't know what's happening. We know what's happening. Okay, he's telling us when and where these things are happening. He's revealing to us the return of our cousin. He's revealing to us the return of our cousin. And we are being awakened to let everybody know about the return of our cousin. You know what? I think I'm decided. When we get done with Deuteronomy, I'm going to study Daniel because we need to study Daniel. We need to get Daniel down. And Daniel goes with Revelation, so we're going to go through this again. So I think it's very important, right? So we're going to be looking at Daniel. I want to look at Daniel again so we can go through this and get it down to a, pat, okay? So let's do that. The world can't see it at all. The world can't see it. See, even when I'm talking to you all about, did y'all look it up? Look up where you at and look at sunrise and sunset and see that it's 12 hours, right? The world's thinking is next week on the 20th or the 21st is equinox. Equinox is today, but they're not looking at that. They already, what the Bible says? It says they think to change times and laws. The beginning of the year for the world is January 1st. The beginning of the year for us is March 23rd. How much different can you get? How much different can you get? Okay. And they have no idea what we're talking about. They're looking at that eclipse in 2017, that blood moon, and say, oh, that was great, blah, blah, blah. And they give you all kinds. We know it was a sign. It was a sign of the blowing of trumpets. It was a sign to warn us that in 2027, Day of Atonement is coming. Jubilee's coming. Outpouring of the Spirit's coming. We're getting prepared to receive that latter rain, brethren. The work really starts then. We're getting built up to that point. Let me tell you something else. The next president we get, it'll be the last president. You know how these things work. They try to run them presidents for 8 years, don't they? Unless they mess up, they run them for 8 years. So the next president gets sworn in January 2025, right? They get voted into office in 2024. And they're going to be there for 8 years. Where does that take you? 2032. Here we are. It's it's almost over. So happy New Year. Happy New Year. Next week, Happy New Year. And happy Passover on April the 6th. April the 5th. And happy Feast of Unleavened Bread on April the 6th. 1 year closer to when we're going to actually celebrate these things in the New Jerusalem. Praise the Most High. May the Most High bless you and keep you. I mean that. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you, and may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Let's keep praying for each other. Please, brethren, keep reading your Bible. Start in Genesis, read through the Revelation. I'm in 2 John right now. I'm probably going to finish the Bible between tonight and 2 nights from now. By Shabbat, I'll probably finish the Bible for the 20th time and start again in Genesis. Here we go. Praise the Most High. All right. Until we meet again, brethren.